Business Brain, episode 779 for Casual FridAI, August 14th, Navajo Code Talkers Day, 2026.
Nice.
Navajo is one of those, the most difficult languages to learn, that they say.
Is that right? Oh.
Yeah, because it's not written, right? And that was kind of why the Code Talkers were kind of brought in during one of the wars. Yeah. But it is a spoken language, and I don't know enough about it. I'm already out over my skis, but yeah, it's difficult to learn, and it's one you can only learn from other people that speak it.
I see.
Crazy. Yeah. But it does, as we're talking about AI, which we will be, it kind of it reminds me of how AI has found, like, it started communicating in English with, Markdown and all of that. I don't think that will persist. I think, and maybe it already hasn't, like, internally AI is using its own shorthand, which would make perfect sense, obviously.
Yeah.
So anyway, interesting stuff. Greetings. Welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take some ideas and we do what we're doing. We crunch them, we dissect them, we use them to tune our business brains and level up our charmed lives. Scribe.how/brain. If you mention brain, you get your first month of Scribe Capture free. They are our sponsor today, and we'll talk more about them in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And I'm Shannon Jean, coming to you from the back deck of Riversong Retreat, one of our vacation rentals.
Nice.
I'm up here working on fixing swamp coolers and septic tanks. It's just the glorious life of the entrepreneur.
Love that. That's great. Hey, why not?
Yeah, that's good. Good to get your hands dirty and get away from the computer.
I have a quick little tip for us all, Shannon, because I did something this week. I was prepping my my other show, Gig Gab, and I knew that I had prepped for a guest that was coming. Like I usually create a session inside of Claude, but it doesn't matter, whatever your LLM is. And I usually do one per guest. And I couldn't find one for Victor. And I searched for this guy, Victor, in Claude. But, the search of the LLMs kind of sucks. It didn't find him. And I'm like, okay, but like, I know that I did this and I'm not dreaming it up. Like, and then I just started another chat and I said, all right, well, I guess I didn't do this. I think I did, but we got to prep for this person. Here's some things I know about them.
Okay. And
it came back and it said, hang on, let me see if I can find it. Oh. And that is the tip, my friends, because it did. It was like, I did find it. I see why you couldn't, because you actually did it in the same session as a different guest, because the two of them are somewhat related, and it made sense in the moment to keep the thread going, but now you don't know where you are. So what I'm going to do is import all the stuff about him into this session, and we can keep going from there. And it was like, why am I trying to use antiquated search tools to search for a session in my AI when I have my AI right there with full access to that data store specifically? So use your LLM, your chatbot, to search for content you've created with your chats that you can't find.
That's smart. I love it.
Yep. You're burning credits to do it. Or tokens, but
tokens. Yeah.
So, anyway,
one thing I want to talk about is, two things: agents and loops. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and they described an agent to me basically like this. You should not type it out. You should just voice record or use some voice recording thing and just start talking about what you want this thing to do. Okay. It could be pages, paragraphs, whatever, and you should put it into your LLM and say, I want you to do this. It could be on a regular basis. It could be this, it could be that. You give all the instructions, and that's how you create the agent. I don't know a lot about agents because I'm not sophisticated, but do you think that's right?
No. I mean, I don't think it's wrong. I think it's a limited. I do think it's the wrong way to begin thinking about them.
Okay.
It is correct. But whether you type, it doesn't matter how you get the information.
Yeah. That was secondary.
Exactly. Every single time you interact with your chatbot, it is becoming an agent for you. But a lot of times those agents are ephemeral, meaning they go away. right? They come into being, you interact with it, and then it goes away. When people talk about agents, usually what they mean is agents with some level of autonomy that are going to be doing your work or their work without you being there to prompt them. Now, does that require 3 pages of instruction or one prompt of, one sentence of instruction?
Either, right? Yeah.
It could be either. And it really, that's not the most important part. When I say I'm going to move, we talked a few weeks ago about advising everybody when your chat starts to get a little long, you move it to Cowork or Claude Code if you're doing code or whatever, but or Codex or any of the things, Perplexity Computer, whatever whatever you want, because they all do it now. Once you move into like a Cowork or a code session in the Claude world, that's still where I live. That's where the agents, in that sense, really start to come into fruition. Because you can tell, I talked about my I took my 10 grand from selling that domain and I gave it to Claude. I gave it to Claude Cowork, and it has an agent that runs, several times a day, pulling in information, checking signals, seeing how it's doing, and then it has an agent that runs once a week that looks at what all the other agents have been doing in that past week and is kind of the management agent. Then there's a third one that talks to me, right? And so there's essentially a 3-layer thing. But the agents that run all week, there's multiple agents that run in parallel all week doing this thing. And it's been very fascinating. Like it picked some...
And are they running in loops? Or is that a different context?
Yeah, I mean, that would... Yes, yeah. Like there's a loop that runs several times a day. Yeah. Checking prices of all the things that it's bought. I don't have it doing any, it's a very simple thing that I have this doing. Yeah. So it's not doing any shorts or anything. It's not using any margin. It is literally taking that 10 grand and buying things long and seeing which ones it can use to make money in 90 days. And we were down for a while. It had picked some of the wrong stocks. It had picked some of the wrong crypto. It basically went 60% crypto, 40% stock. That was its decision because it's like if you want this to pay off in 90 days, we think that you got to go with something that's volatile. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. It turns out though that we're basically break even on crypto, and now we're making money on stocks. Microsoft stock was one of the ones it picked, and that's been going gangbusters. Meta stock was one that it picked, and that tanked. So it unloaded Meta, and it just unloaded another crypto the other day. It runs these decisions by me.
I love that. Go ahead.
No, but it's built not to wait for me. It says, here's what I'm supposed to do. Here's what I propose we do. You can approve now, veto now, and if you do neither in 48 hours, I'm going to do it.
I love it. Yeah. It's unemotional. Right. That's what I like about it.
Correct.
And so it's like, hey, well, maybe I shouldn't sell that Meta because it may come. And it's like, no, we're cutting it. We're out.
Dude, we already made the rules.
Thing.
Yeah. In fact, the things that run the loops all week are not agents really, because they're dumb. They do not ever use the LLM. The LLM built their instructions, but their instructions are fixed. Nice. When a stock gets to a certain point above or below our purchase price, a thing happens, and there's several different things.
Like a screen recording tutorial on that, dude. I think people would love that.
People would love it. You're not wrong.
It's huge.
But I asked it the other night. I'm like, gosh, I'm getting impatient. I was impatient. Turns out we're like 34 days into this thing.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and I'm like, shouldn't we be more aggressive and maybe like hyper trading this stuff? Like, could we do it? Like this, that, and the other thing. And we're not analyzing all the time. We're just like following these rules. But shouldn't we be analyzing? And it was like, whoa, the whole point of this is to not be emotional or influenced by things. We've come up with the rules. We have a 45-day review where we're going to review the rules. But part of the rules is that we don't change the rules for the first 45 days.
It's cool. That's super cool.
Right? And it was like, I was like, oh, right. It's like, so it even told me, you don't want the LLM involved in this daily stuff because it's going to start changing its rules because that's what you're asking it to do, and it's like,
makes sense. I love it.
So I'd
love to see how you put that together. I think that'd be great.
I basically spent less time on it starting it than I did explaining it to you. Like
Nice.
I really just said, here's 10 grand. It's found money. I don't care if I lose it all, but I'd like to make something with it. What can you do in 90 days? It's yours to play with.
Yeah.
And it asked me some questions, how automated do you want it? And I'm like, as automated as you can be. And I was like, great, you got to get in accounts with Alpaca and Kraken. I'm like, got one, just got the other. I already had one, just got the other. Like it was, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
That's great. Good stuff, man.
it is. And I have lots of other things like this, and I'm using it in our business where it's like, we're constantly looking for new shows to bring into Backbeat.
Sure.
And so I've got an agent that's just constantly researching and looking at things. And again, it's being unemotional about it. And then when it passes it up the stream based on the rules, it finds things and then we'll pass it up the stream to something to do a little more soft research on it, and then if it passes that, then I find out about it, right? And so it's this multi-tiered approach. But yeah, that's how I'm using agents and loops. One of the ways.
Nice. That's great.
So
Awesome. Super helpful.
Yep. It's fun.
Very good.
And once you start using it, those terms can sound scary is the wrong word, but
intimidating
confusing.
a little bit.
Intimidating. Yeah. And then you don't do it. But what I realized eventually was I was already doing it. I just wasn't calling them agents and loops. It's just like I have the thing doing the things for me.
Yep.
So yeah.
Love it.
But you feel like you're missing out when somebody says, "Oh, I've got a bunch of agents running." It's like, "Oh, I don't."
Totally feel that way. Yes.
And then I'm like, "Oh, wait, actually, I do have a bunch of agents running. Like, it's actually kind of fun." Yeah. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
My son built an agent that tracks the set lists of Rush concerts in real time and alerts us if there's any changes and things like that. It's like, it's fun. Like,
That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. We have, speaking of Claude,
We
they're
have
doing
something
some things.
very important to talk about.
Yeah, we do. I'm glad you brought this up. That will be the next thing we do, because what we're going to do right now is we want to tell you about our sponsor. Look, here's the thing nobody warns you about when you start building a business. At some point, all your best systems live entirely inside your own head. The charmed life you're building runs on processes that only you fully understand. And the moment you need to hand one off, teach it, or scale it, you're back to square one explaining the same thing from scratch. I ran into this building our podcast network here at Backbeat Media, right? We built a custom podcast management and schedule tracking system from the ground up. It works great, but documenting how to actually use it, that was the part that never got done until Scribe. Scribe is a workflow AI platform trusted by 94% of the Fortune 500 that does something genuinely remarkable. You turn on the browser extension or desktop app, go through a process exactly as you normally would, and Scribe builds the step-by-step guide automatically. Every click, every screenshot captured and formatted without you writing a single word. What used to take hours of documentation work is done the moment you finish the process. And then it gets even better. Anyone following that process gets real-time on-screen guidance inside the actual tool right from the moment the guide is created. Scribe also automatically redacts sensitive information from every screenshot, names, account numbers, emails, so nothing slips through. If you want to see what Scribe could look like for your org, head to scribe.how/brain and mention brain for your first month of Scribe Capture free on select plans. That's scribe.how/brain. Go check it out. I think you're going to like it as much as I do. And our thanks to Scribe for sponsoring this episode. All right, Shannon, what's Anthropic up to here?
I think Anthropic is a really interesting company.
I've said that many times. I agree.
They're the ones, a couple things kind of screaming the loudest about everybody's going to lose their jobs, and then we can't have, you got to control these AI. And I mentioned on the show before where I think they would like some regulations set that would help protect their business, right? I don't think it's altruistic as they want to make it seem. And they do some weird stuff, and I love Claude. I use it like every day. But
yeah, they certainly appear publicly to be the most altruistic of the major AI platforms.
Yeah, I think that's virtue signaling. And so
well,
that's my take.
every AI platform has virtue signaled against the previous ones, right? Like
that's
they
true.
all
Yeah,
grew
yeah.
out of each other, right?
They did all grow out of each
OpenAI
other.
was created because somebody at Google was like, we can't have a megalomaniac in charge of this stuff. So they built it. And then somebody at OpenAI was like, holy crap, we can't have a megalomaniac in charge of this stuff. And so they built Anthropic.
Went to Anthropic. Yes.
They started Anthropic. Like that's how this is all always happened. Yeah.
Correct. So what they announced, I think yesterday, was it yesterday? When was it? They posted it in their blog post. We're going to put it.
Doesn't matter. Earlier this week.
Anyway, earlier this week, that everything that is produced by Claude will now have a watermark. Every image, every text will have hidden threads woven into it so that you'll be able to identify it as AI and created by Claude. And I first saw that, and I was like, oh, it's great. It's going to get rid of a lot of AI slop and a lot of garbage that you see. You'll be able to identify it. But at the same time, I start thinking like, well, I use Grammarly to write like everything that I write. Sure. It helps me with my grammar. Do I have to like now attribute that to Grammarly?
Well, they're not saying you have to attribute.
No. But I guarantee you other people are going to be attributing it to whatever you use.
I see. They're going to be running everything you publish through
that's right.
the thing. It makes sense.
And
sure.
it's not and like these threads, these hidden AI threads through your text, they stay there. Whether you cut and paste, even whether you edit it's going to be there forever. So I'm not one of those people that really cuts and paste AI. I use it as like my thought partner, and I help me figure stuff out. But some of it is super valuable to like when you're creating a report or
it's great.
We use it to create our business blueprints. That it takes our knowledge, everything we talked about for the last hour or so, and it creates a very good threaded guide to help you achieve things. So and I don't know that it matters that's
no, but it's interesting. So
it's weird.
There's I want to speak about that. Just to frame this for everybody, at least the way Anthropic is framing it, is that there is the new EU AI Act, and it has a code of practice on transparency of AI-generated content, and that's at least the catalyst, the stated catalyst for them doing this, right? They say that all models that come out from August 2nd, 2026 onward will do this watermarking, and it applies across everything, whether you're using the API, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, Claude Chat, whatever, it doesn't matter. And they will provide tools to detect Claude's watermark so that this isn't going to be hidden, only for them to see.
Yep.
And even though it is built because of the EU's AI Act, it will apply to Claude usage by everyone.
Worldwide.
Worldwide. If you're using older models, those haven't yet been adapted to watermark things, but they
coming.
say that they might. Yeah. It's clear that they are in some things. They specifically call out images like SVGs, PNGs, or JPEGs. Obviously, you mentioned the text. Code that it writes, yes. Spreadsheets, less clear as to whether how much it can watermark that for you, unless it starts putting it in the metadata, which spreadsheets of course have all over the place. I mean, when I use Claude Code, and this has been true since I started using Claude Code, I have Claude Code, it'll write the code, and then for every sort of batch of code that it writes that maybe it adds a feature to our thing or whatever, when I have it commit that to our code repository, it commits it as being co-written by Claude and me. Now, I could choose to make those commits and just not mention Claude, but I don't want. I'm too lazy to do that. I want Claude to, because Claude writes great commit notes. It's great. It's wonderful. Right. And Claude did help create it, and I'm totally fine with it. So in a sense, this doesn't bother me. But to your point, you're going to get the people out there that want to, quote unquote, catch everyone that's using AI. And the watermark, at least as it's described here, does not indicate how much of the source material
is original,
is original, right? Because, for example, we will take I was just showing Shannon something that I've started doing, and it's great, and we're going to do it with this show too, is we will take the full transcript of this episode. So clearly words that Shannon and I said or stumbled over or whatever, and feed that transcript into Claude or some other LLM, but in this case, let's say Claude, right? And tell it, hey, look, this transcript, we record 2 at once, so therefore there will be 2 episodes, and we'll have to tell it, listen for when this episode, episode 778 starts and ends, and then there'll be some conversation in the middle. Don't summarize that. Do only the episode conversations for 778 and 779. And I think it'll do it. It'll probably require some tweaking of the prompt.
Yeah.
But like I don't want to say all of the source material because it's pulling from that which is built into the model as well. But it is summarizing.
Yeah, it's us. It's
and
our
so
content.
The summarized version of it is Claude, but it's our content. And candidly, this is something I've been doing with all of my shows for years now because why in the world would I not? I
like using a
forget
calculator.
what we've talked about. It's like using a calculator.
Do you want to use an abacus or do you want to use an HB whatever calculator?
You want to do it with your hand.
Crazy.
We skipped the abacus step here in a sense. Like we went from doing math by hand to having calculators, and it's like
everything that you put into Claude, if you summarize it, Claude Anthropic is basically now. I mean, I guess they've taken ownership of it anyway. Sure. Using their services, but now they're really going to stamp it as this is Claude. Claude created this.
Ownership is not like I believe it's already been stated. I don't know if it's been tested. I'm definitely over my skis again here, but that which is created by AI cannot be deemed to be owned by the AI.
Okay.
Whether it can be deemed to be owned by you or not is where things are fuzzy.
It's interesting.
So Claude Anthropic can't say, "Oh no, like now I own all the content on your site."
No, not owned, but created by.
Yes.
But instead of you and I being the creator,
correct,
and it's summarizing our creation, it's going to say created by Claude in one way or another.
The watermark will imply that, and that's the thing. Is it doesn't
that
as
doesn't
far
sit
as
well with me.
It does as far as we know. It doesn't communicate. Did I simply prompt it, hey, fabricate a potential episode that Dave and Shannon would have done and summarize it versus here is a literal episode, please summarize this. Those are 2 very different things.
Yeah. It's unbelievably arrogant, in my opinion, and it tracks with everything they've done. Here's what I think they've just done. 2 things. They're going to just push more and more people to open source models that are going to run on your local desktop and different things.
Well,
that's
going to
get easier. That's good. Yeah, all that stuff. That's going to get easier and easier and easier to implement. So even though it's like now people are like, what's OpenClaw? What's Kimi? What's this? That's all going to, that eventually is going to just become another app you just do on your thing and you're not going to have any problems. The second thing is it
already exists on your iPhone. It has for a couple of years. This summarizing part of it has. Yeah.
But I also think that the more these companies flail around and make all these crazy wild statements and everything else, it just opens the door, I think, for a company like Apple and just to strut right in and say, hey, you know what? It's just like the music industry when Jobs said, everything's $1. Yeah, we're going to stop, and we're going to stop all this piracy because everything's at 99 cents. Who cares? And everybody was like, nobody will ever stop. It did. I think it's going to be very similar. Yeah.
No, I agree with this about the music industry. I don't see the similarity here. So help me with that.
Well, I think that they're the ones that are going to make it easier for everyone to access and use and to keep the data yourself. Yes, I use...
Yeah, but you're still using a model that Apple created. So, for example, let's say, they don't currently, but let's say Anthropic chooses to release an open source model. You know, like some companies do, like Google does this, right? You know, but it happens.
Yes.
You know, an older version. I mean, you couldn't run Opus on your own hardware.
Correct.
These frontier models are crazy large. Yeah. But you can run a crappy model on your own hardware, and it is a crappy model. Like in compared to what you would get with, you know, GPT 5.6 or whatever, and Opus 5 or even Opus 3. Yeah, it's crap.
But I think a lot of the day-to-day things we do, they work great on this crappy model. It's like 10x what it used to be. Maybe it's not 100x.
But if you're for just summarizing, it's fine.
Yes.
It is. And so, yes, I think that will. You're right. Apple will be is already one of the companies that removes the friction from that.
Everything. So I think that company like that.
But it's still a model that Apple created. So,
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Well, no. But if Anthropic is doing this because of the EU's AI Act, then assuming that act holds water, then every model that is released eventually will also have to do this watermarking. It's not that Claude's doing it on their, I mean, they are doing it on their servers, but if you get a model that didn't come from, I can't think of Hungry Panda. It's not Hungry Panda. It's the other thing. But the site that has like the jailbroken models, right? Then they too would have these watermarks. They don't. Like, we don't think they do. We don't know that they do right now. But if this thing is going to happen, then all of the models being released, even into open source, unless you train your own model, in which case
that's not going to work. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. I think the EU, a lot of their rules, I mean, even Apple says we're not doing that, so we're just not selling that iPhone here. This is crazy. And so I think a lot of it is because not much, well, this will really be biased. I'm sorry if you're listening overseas, but they don't have the creator. They don't have the technology, and they want to put all these rules and guardrails and limitations on this technology that we're building here or in other countries. But anyway, I think it's interesting.
I think the definition of AI generated content needs to be less binary than it is right now.
I agree with you. Yeah,
that's the issue. That's the issue. Because we don't know. Like, Claude helped create this from what?
What? Yes, from scratch, where you did nothing. That's totally different. But if you're like, hey, here's,
I think both can be transparently disclosed.
Yeah.
I don't have any issue telling people.
No, I don't care either.
Or even putting on the site that, this summary of the episode
by Claude. I don't care.
was created.
They should come sponsor us, and we
our transcript by Claude. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that being a known thing, but I want the full train to be known, not the last step.
Yes.
Right. That's the issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although I think it's probably pretty obvious if you come to the page, like for us, there's a summary, and then you can press play. So probably,
yeah, that's right. That's great.
But that won't stop the crazy people that want to just complain about AI content. So,
correct. Yeah. All right. What do you think the big takeaway today is? I have mine. We talked about
you're
agents
already
and loops.
Using agents. Yeah. Use them more.
That's to me. You really think about
that's it.
Implementing agents. I loved your description of, a lot of what we create is really an agent, but then it goes away. So think about how you create permanency with those, and how you using loops is how you get them to do it repeatedly over and over to either refine what they're doing or just do it on a regular basis.
Yep. So learn to create persistent agents and loops.
Perfect. I think it's great. And if you want to learn about that, guess what we're going to use to help create this summary? Go to businessbrain.show/blueprints, and you can get a deep dive into creating agents and loops and a bunch of other stuff that we'll be glad to help you with.
And a bunch of other stuff, yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Make sure to do that, businessbrain.show/blueprints, and keep living that charmed life. We'll see you next week.
See ya.